So my friends are losing 20% each month. And we've just gone through their entire business, and let's figure out how we're going to make them 30% profit each month going forwards. So this is the revenue they have at the moment in the gym. We're getting roughly 20 grand a month coming in, with the expenses being 11 grand for the gym, which is a lot. 55% of their current revenue is spent on the physical premises. If you run a physical business, that's too much, all right? Then you've got 9K in staff and 3K in ads. 2K miss, overall losing 5 grand a month, which is just unacceptable. Sorry guys. There's a couple of interesting things here. So the gym is fixed, and I put a question mark next to this because nothing is ever fixed. You can negotiate anything. And so you could go directly to your landlord and say, hey, we're being crunched. The business is going to go down unless you offer me some assistance. Can we come to an agreement? Unlikely to happen, but it's possible. Next up, staff of 9 grand. If you're only doing 20K in revenue, it's probably too high. So this can be changed. But there's a caveat to that, because if you end up destroying the systems that you've spent so much time building, it's a massive step backwards, which if the business is going to die next month, if you run out of money, take as many steps backwards as you need to make sure you survive, right? But if you're not going to, is that going to hinder your progress going forwards, and is that worth it? Only you can figure that out, right? But going through this and just checking, what does everyone actually do and what happens if they stop working tomorrow? Really quick way to fix it. And then ads are variable based on how many people are coming in, right? So let's skip to this side of the board. LTV at the moment, we've got two basic calculations. Average monthly payment per person divided by the average monthly churn is going to be 150 divided by 7%, which is about 2.25K total lifetime value of a customer. Sounds great. But is that actually the cost? Is that actually how much they're going to pay you across their entire life? By those numbers, yes. So let's check another way. If we go with the total revenue that the company's made over the last 3 years, divided by the total members they've had over the last 3 years, the number we get there is 750K divided by 450 in total, 1.6K per person. This doesn't match because the first number is a perfect scenario. It doesn't remove some external factors that you need to account for, such as paid in fulls, discounts, freebies, offers that you run, or a customer that just comes on and leaves. Like, that person does count into the LTV, unfortunately. So this is a much safer number to use. And when you're planning anything, make it work with the worst possible scenario. So if you require X amount of money, but you can be in this range, always use the lower number for income and the highest number for the expense to make the smallest delta. Because if it works then, it'll work when things go right. A cost to acquire a customer, really easy to calculate. Total ad spend divided by total number of people acquired. This one's quite interesting because how do you know if your ads are the thing generating custom? Is it your Facebook ad as to why people signed up, or is it that you run bad Facebook ads and it's all organic? You don't know. But if you do this consistently, and if you spend 5 grand a month on ads and it gives you X amount of clients each month, do you care? No. However, it is important for when you're scaling. Because if you try to scale something that's actually not the lever, you're just going to throw your money in the bin. But you do have to test it. Let's assume that they've been running paid ads for 3 years, and let's assume this is actually where their clients come from. I do believe it is. So we're looking at a CAC of 365, LTV of 1.6. So you've got roughly a CAC to LTV of 4:1, which is good. Not from me, I don't know if that's good or not. Hormozy has noticed that above a 3:1 is where companies can scale. If you can go well above that, 10:1, much better, but this will still work, right? And the biggest, most important thing is, I'm not sure I actually wrote this down, CAC to cash collected is positive. The ratio is above 1. So on average, they collect £500 on their first payment, but it's costing them £365 to get it. Now, if you go into a casino and every time you put 365 down, you get 500 back, how many times are you playing that game? I'm going to play all the time, right? This allows you to not have capital as a limiting reason as to why you can or cannot scale. I call it client financed acquisition. I don't know if that's actually the term, but I like it. Next up. They've been stuck at 185 members for 2 years. And every time we've spoken to them about this number is not going up, even though that's where all the effort is going to. Why? Or number of clients that you will plateau at is a really simple calculation of your sales velocity divided by your churn, i.e. how many sales do you make in the year and how many people do you lose in the year. When they balance out, you're stuck. You're not growing, but you're also not shrinking. So they are currently getting 13 new members a week, even though it feels like it's 20. The numbers, it's actually 13, sorry, per month, thank you. At a 7% churn rate gives you a cap of 185 people, right? We want to get up to 300 members. So how do we physically do that? If you rearrange the equation, if you need GCSE math support, that's my company. I can teach you to do that. Basically, we move the bottom number here to the other side by multiplying it. 300 times 7% gives us 21 new members a month. That is where your plateau. Caveat here, if they start selling 21 members a month today from 185 members currently, it's going to take them 2 years until they plateau because the graph looks like this, right? So they'll get up to about 270 in the first 6 months, and then to get the final 10% is going to take like a year. So how do we combat that? You do way more. Have a stint, have a project, have a season of just sell. So let's figure out, can they do it with the infrastructure they have in place? So they've currently got 4 salespeople, and those salespeople at the moment are the ones that are getting the CAC of 365. That's super important, and where I've messed up in the past is using my numbers for the CAC and expecting other people to get the same results. Really unlikely. So I know for a fact, my friends, the owners of these, when they do that, this number's closer to 100. So they have already accounted for that, which means their CAC to LTV normally is actually 16 to 1, which makes perfect sense. When you hire other people to do the thing, unless you are a god at being able to create a sales team, you will have inefficiencies. So 4 sales guys, people can only work 4 hours a day. Don't try and push them more. I have tried personally. It sucks. They cry, they quit. Times 5 days a week. I've also done 6 days a week, and that also didn't go so great. So in total, you've got 80 hours a week where you can take sales calls. Their sales calls are 45 minutes, take a 15-minute changeover or a gap that I would leave for when people turn up slightly late, all that sort of stuff. So 80 sales calls a week they can currently take. They get a 90% show rate, but we're going to use 80% because as you scale, again, inefficiencies come in. So after an 80% show rate, they usually get a 50% close rate, but again, inefficiencies. At the moment, they're creaming the top of the pie, of the curd, of the cream. You know what I mean? And I assume that will drop down to 30%. This is what I found when I've scaled my sales teams, is that 30% is what you would expect from a salesperson who is not stupid, who just turns up, right? So 30%, that's what we want, at least. And that leaves you with 19 closes per week, not per week, which actually means they've got 80 closes per month if they just use the guys they currently have working half the time, right? So you could fire the entire sales team, do it yourself, only 4 hours a day, one person, and you hit those numbers, which would then cut down the 9K, and it's probably the smartest thing to do. Guys listening to me, it's probably the smartest thing to do. But you then destroy the system that's now reliant on you to maintain that. So maybe don't get rid of everybody, use them for the stint, and anyone falling short where they don't have, so you track individuals CAC to cash collected. If their ratio drops below 1, don't try and fix them, get rid of them, and keep the guys that are winning so that they can maintain that. Only one person needs to maintain this for the company to stay at 300 members consistently. Now, doing that, 80 closes a month, you're going to be there in 2 months. So it's almost November, December, boom, you're done before the January rush, wicked. All right, what does this actually look like? So with rerunning the numbers, you've now doubled your revenue for the month. It's pretty linear here. So actually, you guys can tell me if this is right. I calculated you have 120 paying members out of 185. About right? There you go, cool. PIF's really high at the moment. I try not to go above 20 to 30% because then all of a sudden you've given loads of discounts for people to pay up front. You've pulled the cash forward, which is helpful for now, but now you don't have recurring money later. And so the only profit you make is coming from the new sales being made. So we double this up, we get a total of about 40 grand a month by increasing from 180 to 300, which you notice isn't double, which is good. So more money, this is good stuff. All right. And then your fixed cost of the gym stays the same. Your fixed cost of staff stays the same because they're currently overstaffed. right? Because in order to offer the number of sessions that they do per week, that's fixed, but the classes are just half empty. So every new person you add in, you don't have to pay more for. Fixed costs compared to variable costs, right? Ads, that will significantly increase because you need more closes, and so you're paying for them. But it's fine. We're only just doubling the ads because we're doubling the number of people that we get, essentially. But now we go from losing 20% to gaining 30% profit a month, which will give breathing room and then enable you to actually do the other things to make this more sustainable. This is the number one thing that needs to be done. Just increase sales velocity. Nothing else matters. If you have organic content, if you have anything else besides this is fun, but not fixing the problem of losing money each month, and that's the one thing that will kill you. The last thing to make sure that you can do this is calculating the capacity your company can handle. And so we did this. We figured out, this is a horrible calculation, I'm sorry. They can run 36 members at a time in one class slot, and there are 40 class slots in a week, and you assume each person takes 3 classes a week, and that leaves you with 480 members. If you are using 100% efficiency, you will not use 100% efficiency. It won't work because not everyone is perfect. You can get closer to the efficiency mark by offering peak and off-peak memberships, because then the people with the off-peak membership cannot join the class that's already full and they will pad out the exterior. It's a good way to increase efficiency and maximize profit once you are there, once you're at the 80%. So the 80% here, they can go up to 400 members, which will break things, right? So the current systems they've got, they'll get up to 300. I still think things will break along the way, but manageable, and they're short term. Onboarding, going from onboarding 10 people, 13 people a month to 80 people a month is going to cause a massive headache. But in the short term, you can grind that out as long as a system in place can manage 20 people a month, which is what you're going to continue to do onwards. That's it. Go make money. Peace.